Welcome back to Stand on Guard. This is a special nighttime edition. We don't often do this here at Stand on Guard, but we're going to do it tonight because what's happening between Donald Trump and Robert Kennedy Jr.? Let's find out.
So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need political change, but we also need to resolve to resist.
Yes, please smash that like button. We weren't doing much of that earlier with my first broadcast of the day, but it's American news. I understand our American audience is not as large as our Canadian, but believe me, folks, what is happening right now in the United States is going to have a profound impact on Canadian politics. As success prevails with Donald Trump in the United States, success will prevail with a conservative alternative in Canada. And as Joe Biden gets pointed towards the exit, so Justin Trudeau and anything and anybody that tries to replace him as leader of the Liberal Party will also be shown the exit. And that's why American politics is very important. I've been following American politics my whole adult life and sooner. When I was a kid, I was watching the Republican National Convention, sometimes even the Democratic National Convention. I could stand the Democrats in those days. Can't much anymore. They've just gone so woke and so crazy and so progressive and so leftist that it's difficult to watch without. Well, it's a bit like watching Question Period every day and listening to Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland and Jonathan Wilkerson and all the rest of them there. But I was watching Ronald Reagan accept the Republican nomination in 1980. Yeah, I was pretty young, but that's what I was doing. And I continue to watch it today. But here's a story, and I'll show you some great scenes from the RNC in a minute here, and just to show you the electricity, the excitement that's with that crowd right now, because they know they're going to win. They know history's on their side. They know the Democrats are on the run, and they know Trump is back like he's never been before. And he's got that alternative that is just going to be so easy to market to Americans in November and the months leading up to that. But here's a story I ran across on X, and it's amazing to me how much of the news now is being generated first on social media. And it's like we're all borrowing from each other. But this is interesting because this is a leaked phone call. Apparently, I've read from Kennedy's son, leaked this phone call between former President Donald Trump and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who, of course, is running as an independent in the presidential race this November. Now, it's really a toss-up in terms of who Kennedy is taking votes away from, or if he's taking more votes from the Republicans or the Democrats, because, of course, he spent his life as a Democrat. His culture, his party is Democratic. His uncle, John F. Kennedy, was a Democratic president. His father, Robert Kennedy Sr., was a Democratic senator and very, very close to being the party's presidential nominee in 1968 before he was tragically assassinated. And of course, our prayers are always with Robert Kennedy Jr. that anything like that might not visit his family again. But I think he is so right on so many issues, and this is why this is fascinating. Donald Trump is clearly reaching out to him, has been for quite some time. It's apparent from this conversation. And let's listen to it first. But this conversation took place shortly after Donald Trump spoke to President Joe Biden. And of course, you heard Biden say, we're going to give Donald a call. He hasn't been Donald in God knows how many years. He's been, that rapist, that convicted felon, that threat to American society, that existential threat to our democracy. Now he was Donald for a change. But here's what they say, and I'll interpret at the end in case the sound is not fantastic. But this is all over X right now.
What's wrong with that whole system? Yeah. And, and it's the doctors you find. Remember I said I want to do small doses. Small doses. When you feed a baby, Bobby, a vaccination that has like 38 different vaccines, and it looks like it's meant for a horse, not a 10-pound or 20-pound baby. It looks like you should be giving a horse this. And do you ever see the size of it, right? It's this massive. And then you see the baby all of a sudden starting to change radically. I've seen it too many times. And then you hear that it doesn't have an impact, right? But you and I talked about that a long time ago. And anyway, I would love you to do something. And I think it'll be so good for you and so big for you. And we're going to win. We're going to win. We're way ahead of the guy. And, he's interesting. It was very nice, actually. He called me. And he said, how did you choose to move to the right? So I guess that's, people say, if I was looking straight on, right? He said, I said, I was just showing a chart. I didn't have to tell him the chart was on all the people pouring into our country, right? But I just turned my head to show the chart. And something wrapped me. It felt like a giant, like the world's largest mosquito. And it was a bullet going right. What do they call that, an AR-15 or something? That was a big gun. Those are pretty tough guns, right?
So a couple of takeaways from this, at least three. At the end there, he's talking about the bullet that went right through his ear as being like the world's largest mosquito. Hard not to miss that part of it. But there's three things to take away. It would be good for you, obviously referencing some kind of position in a future Donald Trump administration. Cabinet, Secretary of Health, perhaps, a special portfolio. Before he says that, though, this would be good for you. He's saying they've obviously discussed the vaccine in the past. And Donald Trump is clearly saying, even though he's the guy that ordered the maximum warp speed vaccine be ready to use and to be pushed on the public, he's never really publicly said he regrets that. He's never said, I'm sorry we pushed the vaccine out so fast. I'm sorry we did the warp speed. He's never said that. He's always said it was up to people whether or not they wanted to take it. He never believed in COVID mandates. But he did obviously believe in that vaccine. It was pushed out as he called it, Operation Warp Speed. And he has never denied the vaccine as being a good thing. In fact, he said quite the opposite. And he has pissed off a lot of his core supporters by saying that. Clearly, he's saying something a little different, a little more nuanced in private, especially when he's talking to Bobby Kennedy Jr., who is, of course, a profoundly articulate critic of the vaccine. Kennedy does not think the vaccine was entirely safe and effective. Yes, we all know it's been safe and effective, and we have to keep repeating that, but I got the vaccine twice, and I got COVID at least once after the vaccine. So I'll leave that up to you. I'm sure you all have your personal story to tell about it. But Trump is specifically saying here that why are we giving this vaccine to babies and in such large doses? He's questioning not only the efficacy of that, but the potential danger in that. Perhaps it's not appropriate, he says. Perhaps we should be looking at doing something else. And he says that's something you could look at, Robert. Clearly, that's the conversation they're having, and that's the conversation they've been having in the past. This is, I think, groundbreaking. And, of course, then he says to Robert Kennedy, We're going to win. We're going to win. Those 3 words. We're going to win. Interesting. So there obviously has been some agreement, or at least some discussion of coming to an agreement between these 2 men. I think this is great because I think Bobby Kennedy Jr. is strong on so many issues, not just on the vaccine, not just on mandates, but on the war in Ukraine. He has stated quite emphatically, we need to end the war in Ukraine. We have to stop funding this monster, stop pouring the money into the black hole of Kiev. And I think if Trump is on side with Bobby Kennedy on other issues, he'll be on side with him on this. Clearly, his selection of Senator J.D. Vance as his running mate as the next potential vice president indicates that Trump is also moving away from supporting the money going to Ukraine to stop the foreign wars. He's going back to his position in 2016, which was to get out of Afghanistan and to stop fomenting foreign wars. Bring the troops home so they can protect America's borders. Don't worry about the integrity of Ukraine's borders. Let Europe worry about those. Let Russia and Ukraine work that out. It's a centuries-old problem that America has no business meddling with. NATO has no business meddling with. But this is, I think, absolutely fantastic. And I'm showing this video and I'm talking about it not because I think it's an embarrassment to either the Kennedy campaign or the Trump campaign, but it bodes well for the future. This indicates that Trump is reaching out. He's seeking unity. He wants to work with the best and the brightest, like Bobby Kennedy's uncle did. John F. Kennedy, as president, said his cabinet would be composed of the best and the brightest. And that's what we need in Donald Trump's cabinet. Not just a bunch of yes men Republicans, but people from different parties, different streams of thought, with different opinions, who can work together in unity, provide the best ideas. Those ideas can be debated. Donald Trump will ultimately have to make the final decision on those ideas. But he's inviting people to be part of that process. He's inviting unity. Unlike Joe Biden, who castigates, eviscerates Donald Trump as a criminal and calls all of his MAGA supporters a bunch of threats to democracy. Now, his tone changed after the attempted assassination on Donald Trump. Suddenly he's saying, oh, we got to scale it down. We got to just tone it down. But he's the one that raised the level of the rhetoric and of the inflammatory language to an unacceptable degree. It has not been Donald Trump. It's been Joe Biden. And I think Bobby Kennedy is a bright man, a capable man, and he could add so much to this Trump administration that is, I believe, almost inevitable at this point. But look at the electricity at this convention. And I just taped a couple of clips quickly before I came on the air tonight. Now, this is Carrie Lake, who is running for the Senate of Arizona. She was unsuccessful in the gubernatorial contest, running for governor. And there was all kinds of speculation about that being a crooked election, and she was cheated out of the result. But here she is talking to Republicans tonight in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and day 2 of the Republican National Convention.
America, I wish you were in this room with us. This is electric. Hello, America. Welcome everybody who's watching at home, and welcome everybody in this great arena tonight. We love you all. Actually, wait a minute. I don't mean that. I don't welcome everybody in this meeting, in this room. The guys up in the fake news, frankly, all right, frankly, you guys up there in the fake news have worn out your welcome, right?
Right.
You've worn it out, guys. You have spent the last 8 years lying about President Donald Trump and his amazing patriotic supporters. Actually, guys, they lie about everything. They've lied about Joe Biden's health, the economy, the laptop, the border. I could go on and on and on.
And she doesn't even mention the Russia collusion hoax, which dogged Donald Trump for the first 2 years of his presidency. And it was all a damn lie that originally came from Hillary Clinton and some bastard MI6 agent who was on hire to the Democratic Party.
But the really good news is that every day more and more people are turning off the fake news. And they're... That's right. And Americans are waking up to the truth about the disastrous Democrat policies pushed by Joe Biden and his favorite congressman, my opponent, Ruben Gallego. These guys, they're full of bad ideas. Just last week, Ruben Gallego voted to let the millions of people who poured into our country illegally cast a ballot in this upcoming election. Gallego and the Democrats have handed over control of my state, Arizona's border, to the drug cartels. And because of them, criminals and deadly drugs are pouring in, and our children are dying. Our children are getting their hands on these drugs and dying. I'll tell you, the hardest thing I've had to do on the campaign trail is talk to moms and dads who come up to me and tell me that their 19-year-old son has died because of fentanyl poisoning, or their 22-year-old daughter took a half a pill and she's gone. We are losing a generation of young people to this fentanyl crisis, and it's got to stop. The Grand Canyon State has become the fentanyl state, and it's not okay with this, Mom. I'm not okay with that. I don't think it's okay with that, Mom. I don't think it's okay with that, Mom.
Now, if you think the Republicans are overstating the case at the border, they're not. In fact, they're understating it. As I mentioned earlier today, have a look at my interview I did a couple of weeks ago with former Customs and Border Security Deputy in Charge, J.J. Carroll. And he is doing a documentary on how bad the border crisis remains and has been under Joe Biden. This man, Biden, should be under criminal charges for what he has done to his nation. He has opened the borders not just to criminals and terrorists, but he has allowed not 25 million. Carroll estimates the final tally might be as high as 45 million illegals into the states. Why do you think Biden has done that? Obviously, he hopes they're going to be naturalized and vote Democratic. That's all this is about for Joe Biden. It is a simple and a raw and a obscene power grab. What else is Carroll saying? 600,000 children have disappeared. Yes, this is a child trafficking operation. It's disgusting. It's too much for most people to even believe, let alone fully comprehend. But that's where we're at with the border. And Carrie Lake is talking about that. I'm going to leave you with a really good clip here from a guy I must say I'm not well acquainted with. And this is the governor of West Virginia, Jim Justice. Quite a character. This guy was elected in 2016 as a Democrat. The following year, he jumped ship to the Republicans. He was so impressed with Donald Trump. So here he is giving his view of things.
Donald J. Trump, my friend, my close friend. He's tough. He's super smart. He's a business guy. He loves America. He taught his kids the right values, and he's a hard worker. Sure sounds like a leader to me. Sure sounds like a president to me. Then ask yourself, why does Donald Trump fight every day for us and continue to take this senseless persecution? Why? And I know the answer, because we're worth it. Now, Baby Dog's got a prediction for everybody here. And here's the prediction. Baby Dog says, we'll retain the House, the majority in the House. We're going to flip the United States Senate. And overwhelmingly, we're going to elect Donald J. Trump and J.D. Vance in November. And Baby Dog says, what is the reason that she knows why we're going to win? And the answer is one thing: because we're worth it. God bless you. God bless this great country. And God bless Donald J. Trump.
Well, that was wonderful. I just played you the tail end of that. I see Sandy here is asking in the comments, say, who's the dude here with the dog? Well, I'll say it again, Sandy. It's Jim Justice, the governor of West Virginia. I had not been acquainted with Jim Justice up until this evening, but I think he's quite a character. We need more people like that in politics who really are funny and who give of themselves. Thanks for watching, folks. I'll be back again tomorrow, probably with some Canadian news. I know we got to get back to the exploits and the bad acts of Justin Trudeau. But believe me, he's watching right now what's going on south of the border, and he's shaking in his boots because he knows with the end of the Democratic regime, that Democratic dictatorship, that's a bit of an oxymoron, but with the end of the Biden dictatorship, he knows the end of the Trudeau dictatorship is that much closer. And you better believe he's worried about that. And he's worried about the judgment that's coming to him and the Liberal Party from the Canadian people, just like the judgment that's going to be leveled down on Joe Biden.